Hey, I want to plan a weekend trip from Vancouver this weekend. Where do you think I should go?
Checking.
While you're looking at that, just also let me know whether maybe
Okay.
look into Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. For this weekend, I'd honestly go Seattle. The weather looks a lot better there.
Can we can we do something outside Seattle? Maybe like the
Mm,
countryside. I prefer some nature.
yeah. On it.
While you look up those options, can you also just look up the weather in Seattle?
Mhm. Sure. For a nature weekend, I'd go for the San Juan Islands. It's about 20 degrees, cloudy with a bit of drizzle Sunday morning, but pretty nice. Mount Rainier is also great, around 24 degrees on Saturday, but a bit of a drive. So I would go San Juan's for a relaxed vibe, or Rainier if you're up for a more full-on mountain kind of trip.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so what you just saw was the brand new ChatGPT Live voice model. Well, they actually released it last week or a couple of weeks ago, but they've also released it on the desktop now, so you can access it from there. But basically, once you go into your voice mode on your phone or on your desktop, you should be able to access the latest ChatGPT Live model. And what you saw there was an example of the model being a lot more conversational, which is a big upgrade from previous models. So when I spoke to it while it was speaking, it kind of continued its thought and then it paused. Whereas earlier, the moment you said something, it would just completely cut off. The other thing that's really cool is it can handle multiple tasks in the background while you're having a conversation with it. So, for example, when I was asking it to research places to go and I said, check the weather too, you notice that it actually did that and came back to me with the weather. So it was already looking for places to go and then it just added on a new weather check while I was talking to it. And then the third cool thing is like it while you're talking to it on your phone or on the computer, it's actually going to pull up and create these little cards for you. So if you're asking for places to go, it'll pull up a map. If you're asking for the weather, it'll pull up a weather chart, a whole lot more. And so that is kind of like the newest, latest model from OpenAI for voice models. And in this video, I want to talk to you a bit more about how this model works and what are some of the best use cases. What can you do with this? Why is this so cool? So right now, this we're at what I would like to call the third generation of voice models. The first generation of voice models, the maybe the first time OpenAI released a voice model was it followed a very like sequential pattern. So you would say something, and then a speech to text model would convert what you said into text. That would be sent to a language model, which responds back in text, and then that text is converted back into speech and then you listen to it. So um, the obviously the biggest drawback of that is that it takes time for this all of this to happen. So there's that long pause when you talk to the first generation of voice models and you would say something and wait for it to respond and then it would respond, and basically you would have to take turns like that. So it was a very like kind of walkie-talkie kind of wait and respond situation. The other thing was that because of what you would say, the way you pronounce things, your accent, it wouldn't pick that up because it's converting your speech into text. And then text is obviously like accentless, right? So if you said, hey, can you pronounce my name in a certain way? It wouldn't know. It wouldn't pick that up because it would just appear, your name would appear in text to it and it would respond back in text. The second generation of language models was the previous version of this, which was they called it the advanced voice model, and so that was markedly better because obviously it didn't do the whole pipeline of speech to text, text to speech. It was just direct voice to voice, and so you there was a big difference in that the lag was a lot lower. You could speak to it; it would speak right back to you, and so the conversation was a lot faster. But it was still turn by turn based, right? And when you think about normal human conversations, it's not exactly turn by turn based. Like you do wait for people to finish their sentence, but sometimes people jump in at the same time, especially if you've been on a in a meeting or something, you'll find that there's some overlap. And that's a more natural way of talking. It's you don't have to kind of just wait till someone is paused and be like, is that a full pause and then you jump in? People tend to like jump in right away, and that's how you get like riff and banter. So that's what OpenAI has done with the latest ChatGPT Live model. So with the live model, we are moving to a full duplex architecture, which is basically information traveling in both directions at the same time. And so the model is now waiting for us to finish a sentence before it processes everything. It's processing it live. So as we speak several times a second, it's taking the newest words and processing it and responding at the same time, or choosing not to respond. It can choose to respond, choose not to respond, choose to invoke a tool, choose to do something in the background. But it's making that decision multiple times a second as your voice is coming in. And if it's responding as well, it doesn't stop when you start responding, because as it's respond, it's still listening to your voice come in, and it's deciding whether it should stop or cut off or not. And sometimes they'll decide it's okay for me to complete the thought while you're talking. And even if that happens, it's not going to lose what you just said, because in previous models, it would have to stop talking so that it could receive what you're saying, so that it could process that. And if it continued talking, whatever you just said would be lost. So now it can still talk and still process what you're saying at the same time, which is the really cool part. The other cool part, of course, is the delegation. So as it's talking to you, it is actually delegating tasks to another model. It's delegating it to, I believe, GPT 5.5, or perhaps even the latest Soul 5.6. So whenever, like, as you talk to it, it can delegate a task to it, or ask the bigger model for more information, and then send that back to you. So it's kind of like you're almost talking to two models, and you're talking to the live voice model, and then the live voice model is sort of in the background, just like asking the bigger model, like, hey, can you like look up the weather? Can you like tell me, what the answer to this? And then like feeding it back to you in real time. Okay, so now that we understand how ChatGPT Live works, why it's different from previous models, how it's better, I'm going to show you a few ways to use it in your day-to-day life and in your work. So the first example I'm going to show you now is, it's just going to be similar to the one that I started off with, which is like just general searching for information. And so this is a great way to use it when your hands are busy, you can't type. The as I said, the voice model is relaying your queries to the actual big model that sits behind it. And so it's basically the same thing. You're getting the same answers, except it's fully hands-free. So I'm going to show you how on the desktop. Hey, I'm in downtown Vancouver and I'm looking to do a hike this weekend. Can you find me some good options nearby?
Checking. Okay, here are a few solid options close by. Quarry Rock in Deep Cove is short and classic, about 35 to 45 minutes away. Lynn Loop is
What's
nice
the
too. It's more
weather
rainy.
like in Deep Cove? And then, yeah, keep telling me the rest of it.
Sure, checking that. In Deep Cove specifically, today looks like a mix of sun and cloud, high around 26. Tomorrow's cloudy with showers around 20. So honestly, if you're set on Quarry Rock, go early tomorrow before it really starts raining. Otherwise, Lynn Loop is a safer bet in steady rain. Dog Mountain on Mount Seymour is a nice middle ground. If you're really just chasing a workout, the grass grind is steep and short, but just check the status before you go. If the forecast improves, St. Mark's Summit is the payoff view, but it's not great if it's slippery.
What is it looking like on St. Mark's Summit?
Checking. For St. Mark's this weekend, it's not looking as ideal. Friday's partly sunny, around 26. Saturday turns cloudy and cooler, around 18 or 19, with some light rain or drizzle possible. Sunday is cloudy, about 17 or 18, with a chance of showers. So if you're okay with limited views and, a bit of mud, sure, it's still doable. Otherwise, maybe save it for a clear.
Okay, so, there again, you could see like it is doing research while it's talking or while I'm having a conversation with it. And you could see the little searching online stuff below that. And also it does this stuff, right? Where it pulls up these maps and you can open it up in your desktop or in your laptop. And then you can see the different options over here. So it did that. And when I asked about the weather, it pulled up a full weather report as well. And so this is again, like I said, if you are kind of in the middle of something, your hands are busy, you don't want to be typing, you could just like spin up the voice model and just have a conversation with it. And it also shows you visual displays. On the phone, it's a lot better because it actually shows it to you in the chat. Whereas with this desktop, you kind of have to stop the chat and then go look at the chat history to see all of the stuff that it pulled up for you. But I'm sure they're gonna work on it. The next example I want to show you is one of my favorite ways to use AI in general, and it's using it as a thought partner to clarify my thoughts and help me communicate something or work on something in my business or clarify something in the business or even just create content. And so I'm going to have a conversation with ChatGPT Live, and it's going to be more natural sounding because we're going to work on this, on what's in my head together, and you're going to see a much better output. Hey, so I have some thoughts about the general discussion happening around open source AI models and the US government trying to cut down on them, especially the ones from China. So can you look up and see what the latest is? I think the CEO of NVIDIA also just posted something recently. And I want to like share my thoughts and I want you to help me clarify them.
Sure. Yeah. Let me check the latest. One sec. Okay, here's the shape of it. There's chatter in DC about restricting access to Chinese open weight models after some new releases. Jensen Huang has been pretty clear. He's saying compete with them, don't ban them. His angle is that strong open models are good for the ecosystem. Meanwhile, a lot of startups are warning that blocking access could actually hurt US innovation and consolidate power with just a few big labs. So, if you're clarifying your position, one way to frame it could be you're not ignoring national security concerns, but you're pointing out that blanket restrictions could backfire.
Yeah, I think in general, I do think the open weight models are important and necessary, not just for innovation, but also for people and businesses, right? I think a lot of companies don't want to be dependent on just one or two providers. I also think that adding restrictions, like the government restrictions, allows them to start doing things like what they did earlier, which is ban Fable from non-American citizens. And so you're getting to a point where the government is stepping in and deciding who can access intelligence and who can't. And open source is the way to combat that.
Yeah, that's a strong angle. Maybe your through line is access is a strategic advantage. If you choke it, startups and smaller labs lose optionality. Meanwhile, the big players and the state get a tighter
Well,
grip.
I want to
That
turn
can
this
slow.
I want to turn this into a blog post. So help me structure it, like so I can put something out as a thought leadership article.
All right. Picture it as a tight 3-act arc, not a rant. Start with a clear hook. Washington is flirting with restricting access to Chinese open models. That feels like protection and might actually weaken us. Then have
Have
a
they? What
short
have they
why this
said recently
matters.
about that? I believe I read a couple of posts from some members of the government who were talking about this, and they did announce a new act.
Let me see if there's anything new. Okay, so there are two different things floating around here. One is the discussion about restricting Chinese open models. The White House has been looking at that. Then a separate thing just introduced is the AI Kill Switch Act. That would let DHS order large AI companies to throttle or shut down powerful systems under certain emergency conditions. So the through line for your post just got stronger. It's not just about open source, it's about who controls access to intelligence. You
Yeah,
can
I think
frame it
it's
as a
that kill
tension.
switch act is a little concerning, right? Because now you can just say, "Hey, this is an emergency, and we want you to not give access to your models to the best intelligence to certain people."
Exactly. That's the heart of your piece. Access
Okay, so there you see again, it was like a more natural conversation. And of course, it's also doing a lot of research in the background and pulling up real time information. So Jensen's post was actually just, I think, yesterday or today. And it pulled that up within a couple of seconds when I asked it to, right? And so I've used this kind of way of using AI before, of like clarifying thoughts and using it as a thought partner and having it stress test my arguments or find flaws in my ideas. And this is just a better model to be able to do that in real time as well. So if you're, just in the gym or going on a walk or taking a bike ride, it's a great way to sort of just have that conversation with AI as you're doing that. All right, so the next example is really cool for business. And at Refound, we do a lot of AI consulting for other businesses. And so oftentimes when I'm preparing for a conversation with a new potential client, I'll actually ask the AI to act as that client. I'll feed it all the context and information about the client. And then we can role play a sort of a negotiation or the pitch, basically. So this is a great example for any kind of role playing situation. If you're prepping for a job or prepping for a client meeting, prepping for a meeting with your boss, or a hard conversation with your partner, or something like that. Hey, so we've got a VC client call coming up, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to pitch them our AI services. There is one of the services that we're working on right now for VC companies is this company brain, where it's an AI that can connect to all of your company information and data, and you can ask
Yeah.
questions of it. So I want you to role play as a VC and act as this potential client as I pitch, and then ask me questions that they might ask.
All right, love it. Okay, I'm the VC partner. Go ahead and give me your tight 60-second version, and then I'll start pressing with some questions. Sound good?
Yep. So what we usually build for VC companies is this company brain, which connects all of your business data and your tools and puts an
Mm-hmm.
agent on top of it so that you can interact with that agent and have it answer questions based on all of your company data. For
Right.
example, ask it to prep you for an upcoming founder meeting, or you could even give it tasks and it can generate, say, a pitch deck or something like that.
Okay. So, first thing I'd ask, what connectors are live today? Are we talking Google Drive, Slack, Notion, email? What actually works right now?
Yeah. So what works right now is we can build any connector for you. It's we usually do Google Drive. Most people have that, so we can connect with Drive, with Slack, any tool that you have.
Right. And what about permissions? Like, say an associate shouldn't see certain HR docs. How do you enforce that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you access the agent, for each person that accesses it, we have created,
Mm-hmm.
we will detect what your level is and what permissions you have to access the data, or um, the data that the agent is going to access on your behalf.
Hmm. All right. And hosting. Where does our data live? Is it in our environment or is it in yours?
It's going to be all in your environment. The agent runtime runs on our hosting, but we can put it on yours as well.
Okay. And do you have any concrete results from other firms, like time saved, number of workflows automated?
Yeah. We've got a number of other VC clients, and we've been able to reduce long manual processes from dozens of hours a week down to just one or two for review time,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a lot of productivity increases across the board.
Okay. Last one for now. What does pricing look like? Ballpark is fine.
So it's going to depend on your usage and how many people are using this, and the size of the organization, the number of workflows we're trying to automate. Could be anywhere from a couple of $1,000 a month to maybe 5, 6.
Hmm. All right. That's helpful. I think pressure testing your security story and measurable outcomes will be key.
Okay. Anything else?
Let me check. Yeah. A few other things I'd press on. First is source of truth and accuracy. As a partner, how do I know the agent isn't making things up? Can I see citations to original docs or emails? Second would be specific VC workflows. Don't stop at a company brain. Say, we automate founder prep, IC memo generation, LP updates, that sort of thing.
Okay, so in that example that you saw, it was a really good example of ChatGPT Live acting like a real VC partner and asking me actual questions. And I've been on these kind of calls before, and these are actual questions that a VC partner does ask. It also did highlight some of the areas where I didn't really elaborate too much as areas I need to strengthen, and then finally gave me some more talking points. And all of it is accurate. I've done these conversations with actual VCs, and these are the exact same questions that they ask, the same concerns they have. And so I think ChatGPT Live did an amazing job there with that role play. And the final example I want to give you today, the final use case is a fun one. It is a language learning use case. I imagine this could change the way people learn languages. I know we're used to, say, Duolingo and these little exercises, but I've always found I speak Spanish pretty well, and the way I learned it was through just talking to people and just real life experiences. And so ChatGPT Live is much better at languages, obviously, because it sounds a lot more natural. It can even do accents in different languages, which is cool. And so, if you're, say, traveling to Argentina, where their Spanish is a little different from the rest of the world and they use certain slang, you can, ask it to teach you in Argentine Spanish and practice that way. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo va todo?
Bien, bien. Voy a viajar a Buenos Aires y quiero practicar el español argentino. ¿Me enseñas?
Claro, me encantaría. En Argentina usan mucho el voceo. En vez de tú, dicen vos. Por ejemplo, en vez de ¿cómo estás tú?, dicen ¿cómo estás vos? Y el tono es más como cantarín. Tiene una cierta melodía. ¿Quieres que hagamos una mini conversación para que pruebes ese estilo?
Sí, hagámoslo.
Genial. Dale. Arranco yo como si te encontrara en un café porteño. Che, ¿y vos? ¿Hace mucho que estás por acá?
Sí, hace 2 días.
Ujú. Mira vos, recién llegadito. ¿Y qué onda? ¿Ya probaste una buena empanada?
Sí, me encantan las empanadas.
Mmm, olvídate, son lo más. Si quieres sonar más de acá, tira un re de vez en cuando. Tipo, está re bueno. Dale, prueba con algo que te haya gustado.
Estaré delicioso.
Muy bien, eso suena re argentino, ¿viste? Y si quieres sonar aún más local, mete un che de vez en cuando. Che, está re delicioso esto, algo así.
Che, estaré delicioso, delicioso.
Sí. Bien, bien, suena mucho más argentino así. También usan bárbaro, que es como buenísimo, está bárbaro. Y el ritmo, manténlo tranquilo, no muy formal. ¿Quieres que hagamos una mini charla más larga para que lo sientas más en el cuerpo?
So that was, as you can see, it basically was giving me some of the slang in Argentina, like I say, Che and Barbaro and Adre every now and then. So it's kind of just like guiding me along and telling me, like, hey, like based on my responses, you should actually do this to sound a bit more Argentinian, and so on. So really cool example. I think like just the way that it is able to distinguish between accents in a different in a language as well, and then to guide you along when you say something. The last part where I started laughing as well, it was just like, it felt so real. It was a little crazy, to have that moment. But I think in general, yeah, ChatGPT Live, amazing new model, um, great way to be able to talk through things, search for stuff when your hands are busy, or ask questions of it, have it do things for you. As you can see, these models are becoming more and more agentic. Or, well, like I said earlier, ChatGPT Live does communicate with the agentic model that sits behind your regular ChatGPT conversations. So then it can actually do things while you're talking to it. And then having these kind of role play or thought partner kind of conversation is really good. It's a great way for you to strengthen your understanding of something or the way you do your work or go about your daily life. And then the language learning piece, I think this is super cool. Is just like the way, if you the way it can like teach you stuff in real time and have a conversation with you, I think is really cool. So yeah, go check it out. It's going to be on your phone. You should have access to it. I think even the free plan does have access to maybe slightly less powerful version of it, but it's on your ChatGPT app on your phone as well as on the desktop. If you click that little start voice button in the bottom, you should be able to access it directly.